All right, we back live again with my man B. Marcus, the Alexandria
Hello,
Charles,
hello, hello.
and this is Big Rob, and we here with HBO when we talk about things that's going on in our community. And later on, we're going to bring in a guest by the name of Valerie. She's an educator, and Latrice Flanders, the favorite sisters of my right hand man, B. Marcus Flanders. And today we're going to be talking about relationships within the family, and
Hmm.
and we know those could be crazy. So so last week when we talked about relationships within the intimate, I started off with Alex. So today, Brandon, I'm going to start off with, and I want to start off talking about the size of your family and how the size of a family can affect uh, each and every individual in that family. And so, Brandon, did you grow up with a big family?
It was three of us. I was the oldest of
Mm-hmm.
three. Um, However, on my mother's side of the family, it's a large family, So my father's side, so there's been a large family, but like the intermediate family has been three of us. Me, my brother, my sister. Then my father remarried, so there's two. So I'm still the oldest of five. So
Mm-hmm. Wow.
yeah.
Well, I'm gonna bring in your sister right now if you don't mind, because
All right.
I don't want you to talk without her saying something. Hey, Latrice, what's going on?
Hello.
Brandon said he grew up with three of y'all, and the conversation of
Yeah,
the
it was
day is about family. Was Brandon a good brother?
good. That's a good question. Um,
Speak honestly.
Dish
as
out, dish out.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest and real. I'll be honest and real. He was pretty hard on us. He was pretty hard on us. He was tough. He acted like our dad most of the time. We had to
Wow.
listen, or there's gonna be consequences when our parents left. But
Uh-huh.
he's a good brother. He is a good big brother though.
When you say
Hmm.
good, what's a good brother?
He's
Because we
supportive.
talking about family
He's
relationships.
somebody
What's a
that I
good
can
brother?
Well, I can go to him about anything. He's my
Mm.
sound person a lot of times. I sound off on him more than my dad. He can relate to me better than anybody else can. So he's supportive of
Were you the
everything I
middle
do.
child?
Yeah, I'm the middle child.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
Hmm.
I'm a
Brandon,
middle
Brandon,
child treated like the youngest child.
so Brandon was the one you can go to before you can go to even your dad.
Right.
Wow.
So
Brandon like
because
that here.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So
Brandon like that here.
I'm thinking you said something that was really prevalent to me was because you said, "Hey, I'm the middle child, but I was treated like the youngest, the baby." Why? Is it
Right.
because there was two men, and then the two men
Yeah.
protected the little girl, the woman in the bunch?
Right. Yeah. I'm the spoiled one. I'm the spoiled one out
Okay.
of the three because I have brothers and my dad to spoil me into, keep watch after me. They're very
Mm.
protective.
Well, since Latricia here, we have another young lady that we brought on board. Her name is Valerie. She's an educator, and so we brought two young ladies in to talk about families. Brandon's sister and somebody who I watched grow up as a child. We lived on the same block for years, and we
Mm.
talked about relationships. Hey, Val, how you doing? I hope you heard what we was talking about a little bit. But we was talking about relationships and families and how the family is so important and the size of a family, how it affects each and every individual. And even though we're going to tap on the whole dynamics of what a family should look like and what a family is, but that was one of the things that we talked about in reference of family. But Was your family with Valerie? Did you have a big family? Can you hear?
Can
Can we hear her?
yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. I think I was muted. Sorry. But yes, I come from a pretty I come from a pretty big family, yes.
Okay.
How many
So
siblings did you have?
I have I have two siblings. There's three of us in all. So I'm the middle child and I have an older sister and a younger sister. So I'm the middle.
oh, so we got two middle babies in the room.
Yeah.
Middle.
So you have two brothers or a brother and a sister.
No, I have two sisters. I was saying I have two
Oh,
sisters.
so how was
The
it
younger-
different? How was different to
Yeah.
you? Because Latrice said that she was the middle child, but she was like the baby because there were two boys. You had all girls. How was it different for you?
It was different because my mother, she liked my oldest sister and my youngest sister more than me. That's how I always felt. So I don't know.
Wow.
I kind of felt left out a lot. Yeah, I kind of felt
Let
left
me
out a
just
lot. I always did my own thing. So it's
wow.
opposite.
So it's the
Well,
middle. It's the
I was
middle
the middle child.
middle child syndrome.
Syndrome
Yeah.
with me. Yes.
I was a middle child
Wow.
out of
Really?
9. Yeah, I had to think
Woo,
about it. I was a
Lordy.
middle. My mother had 9. My mother was all over the place, but I love her, so don't say nothing. She was all over the place. My mom's had 5 different baby daddies, and and,
Hey.
and my mother was, but my mother was
What number were
my
you?
mother was, I was the 5th child. Lisa, Sean, Linda. I was the 4th child. So yeah, it was so out of 9. So yeah, I was the middle child. So but the crazy part about it, I was the brother who all my sisters looked up to. Like
Mm.
I was the Rob. Can you help me with the rent, Rob? Can you help me with the like? You know, she knows I lived on the block. I was the one. You know, they went to.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And my sisters in the like even today, like on Thanksgiving, I don't make a plate. My sisters make plates before they make it for their man. And so I was always the I had that leadership capability, and you know God put it in me for at an early age as a. But my grandmother who raised us, well, 9 of us, she loved my little sister the most. Little sister, oh my God! I mean, God bless her soul. I love her, but she was horrible. She was the worst.
Is she still with us?
No, she passed away, and I'm talking about it because we have this conversation. I love my sister,
Mhm.
but my
Mhm.
grandmother and Val could tell you because we lived on the same block for like 20 years, and my grandmother gave everything to my little sister. My little sister came out to be horrible. You know what I mean? And so the dynamics of my family having 9 family members. My oldest brother Elliot was like my father,
Mm.
and he. As a matter of fact, we just had an argument the other day because I said to him, I said, "Yo, I was married for 16 years, and you never came to one Thanksgiving."
Mm.
And I
Mm.
said, and I said, you walk around here like you Superman. I said, you're the most arrogant guy in the world. But the big brother, I'm 50-something years old, and he's still thinking he my daddy. I'm like, yo, hold up, brother. And I'm bigger than him. I'm 6'3". My brother 5'7", 5'8". He's talking he's talking to me like he my daddy.
How
I'm
old
like,
is he? How old
you
is he?
and my brother 60, gotta be 61, 62. And I had to tell my brother, I said, listen, man, he a police officer, yes, sure. I said, I'll turn you upside down. I was at his job around about 30 cops. Tell him, this is just the other day. But that's what the dynamics of a family is. With my family, we went like through ups and downs. We went from living like the Jeffersons. We went from living on up to living on down. You know what I'm saying? So I had to
Mhm.
experience that as a child. And my grandmother was, her mother's grandmother was, her mother's mother was a slave.
Mhm.
And my grandmother couldn't read. She raised us. So when we used to teach her how to read, we used to teach it in rhymes. You know what I'm saying? If we wanted to spell something, we would have to say M, I, crooked letter, I. Everything had to be arithmetic. And my grandmother would talk about that when they were sharecropping, that they had to eat the little blackbirds. You see the little blackbirds you see on the ground that be flying around? They had to catch them and eat them. So my grandmother was an impact on me and my family because my brother didn't like my grandmother, but she raised us. But my grandmother used to whoop us. And as I got older and I started to read and I started to educate myself, I learned that my grandmother only whooped us like that because the slave master ripped her mother. So their language of straightening you up was, I'm going to whoop you. So you would hear stories, like in my household, my grandmother would tell me, take all your clothes off. And she wouldn't start whooping you until all your clothes off. Well, where did you see that at?
Wow.
You saw that in the slave master.
Wow. Yeah.
And I had to tell my brothers and sisters in them that my grandmother loved us, but she was taught by the slave master through her mother and her grandmother.
Right.
So she was born in 1922. Her mother was born in 18 something, and her other mother was born in 18 something. So she saw a lineage of whoopings coming from the slave master. And they couldn't, psychologically, it affected my family. So my sister was on dope, my other sister was on dope, my brother was on dope, right? But they didn't know that if they look at the lineage of your family, how your mother came to you was how she was going to raise you. And it took me, so I had to sit back and thank God for him having the ability to process. It was until I was at a university that a professor told me, you have to be a critical thinker. You have to start thinking outside the box. So I started having a critical thought about my family. I like, why my brother like this? Why my sister like this? Why my other sister getting high? Why everybody in the stage of frustration? They angry, they upset, and they resolve themselves to either sex or drugs, right? It was because
So
go ahead, I'm listening. Go ahead, ask the question.
so my question would be the dynamics of discipline in the family for you was because of what they've learned. And
Right.
I would ask, the brother and sister, what was the dynamic and discipline in your family? Because one of the things that you said, Latrish, was that, hey, you know, Brandon was like the dad to me. So he was like the disciplinary. What was it to you? How was your parents discipline you? And did they ever? Or was Brandon the daddy all the time?
Oh no, we had a very disciplinary father. Um,
Yeah.
he didn't take nothing. Our
Yeah.
mother was more the soft spoken one, where you could do something and you wasn't afraid that she's gonna get you. But our father
Mm.
would hear about it and he would be the one that would be
Oh, yeah.
disciplining us. But when my
Yeah.
parents weren't around, Brennan was the one that did what he did to keep us in line.
Right.
So,
But
Brandon,
yeah,
how would you match that with what Rob said? Because Rob said, hey, what the way his grandmother did it was because somebody did it to her. So,
Oh
with
yeah. It
your
was.
disciplinary, did you get that
Yeah.
from your dad?
Yeah. Mine was it came from my dad. Definitely came from my dad. My dad got me like a few good times, and I was like, I didn't need no more whoopings.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Mm.
learned from that. But even how I disciplined them, it wasn't so much always whipping them, but it was like taking things from them or making them do
Mm.
certain things. That became my way of disciplining them. It's like, oh, you can't do this. If you do this, you can't do that. That type of thing. So Yeah, so it was it is definitely a systematic thing, and it's something that is passed down, how you discipline. But I think over
Mhm.
time, especially with with children today, how I discipline my niece is completely different than how we were disciplined. And I have a 9-year-old niece, so my discipline to her now is talking to her and making her
Mm.
understand what she's done and recognizing, okay, do you understand that this deserves some type of form of discipline, and what do you think you deserve? That type of thing. So it's making
Oh,
them think
good.
think more about why the discipline is coming forth.
And how about you, Rob? Do you follow your grandmother, or did you learn differently and do differently?
Oh no! I in the beginning with my son, I was disciplining him, and I felt like I had to check myself because I felt like giving my son whoopings wasn't the key to success. So when I began to talk to him, I found out I was elevating his level of thinking.
Yes.
And later
Right.
on, my son became brilliant. Like he was more like, oh, I could go talk to my dad. So now my 14-year-old daughter, I always push, you know, I hit her one time, right? And it broke me. Listen,
Oh, wow.
so I'm in the car driving, and my daughter say something slick. I said, listen, stop. You know how we do? We give them that look.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm used to having a boy, and she just about a 10, 11, and she's running her mouth. So I tapped her on her chest. She had no breast, right?
Hmm.
She said, Daddy, I'm a girl, and broke down.
Oh,
Yo,
oh gosh.
I'm crying. I'm on the highway. So I took my baseball cap, right, Brandon? And I turned it this way and dropped it over my face. And I'm in the truck crying. Because she don't know it. I'm
Mm.
not going to let her see me cry. I'm crying. And all I can say, I'm this shit again. This is that one hit
Right.
killed me. Right. So she said, Daddy, I'm a girl.
Oh,
That
I
was it.
said,
That
oh
was
my
it.
God. Do you know
That
I
was it.
never touched her again? That girl had one spanking for me. And it wasn't even a spanking, it was a tap. And I ain't touched her since. I'm scared to touch her because what it does to my soul. And so when I talk to her
amen.
now, so we got close, and she was in the 7th grade. I got a little boy I like. I said, let me see the pictures.
It's on and popping.
Right, because you want to see if a daughter opens up to you to show you pictures of who she like, that means she trusts you, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Amen.
So she pulls the
Amen.
picture out and she shows it to me. And guess what? The boy looked like he'd be my son. I said, God, I said,
Wow.
he black, big, afro. I'm like, if I had a picture when I was his age, you swear to God we was twins, right?
Oh,
I
wow.
said,
Wow.
so I turned around, looked at her mother, and I said, you see her? She said, yeah. He said, little boy look just like you. I said, that's when I learned that the steps you take in life, your
Yes.
children
That's
watch.
right. That's
Definitely.
right.
Yeah, your children,
Right.
I was gonna
your children. Go ahead, sister, because you know I can talk.
I was
Go ahead.
gonna ask, yeah, I was gonna ask Valerie, what, how her discipline in her family and who disciplined her. I don't know if she could hear us.
Oh, she stepped away for a second. Go ahead.
Okay. So basically what I'm listening, I know my dad died early in my childhood, so I was about one, and my mom got remarried, and my mom was always a disciplinary person. We were raised as being strong men, and sometimes it was detrimental to our strength. And sometimes the dynamics of allowing yourself to be humble changes what I'm saying, because you've always been taught, I am woman, hear me raw. And my stepfather, he was like the quiet one. He didn't say much. He was a professor at a college, and he was just a very quiet person. My mom was the one that was always the disciplinary, because my stepfather, he would be like, let's talk about it. And so where my mom, she laid the law, you know, and so you didn't tell
Right.
my mother nothing. And so but the dynamics to the good and bad to it was, I saw how women could do for themselves. Women, my mom always taught us that, because I think her, and you say people's past causes how they raise their children. My mom bitterness of my dad dying so early and leaving her with three kids caused her to be overly bearing, overly strong, overly, you know what I'm saying? And then got a man in her life that was a laid back person. So my stepfather was not a overbearing. And I thank God, because we couldn't have two overbearing people in the house, but it was just like, she taught us how to take care of ourselves. I remember us learning, counting money at 6 years old. you know, like everybody had a bank account at
Sound
the
like
age
your
of
mother.
8.
Sound like your
You
mother
know,
is a drug dealer. Go ahead. I'm just playing.
but yeah, let me tell you, she gangster. She gangster. She was no joke. Like
That sound like
everybody
your
had their
mom's a
bank
hustler.
account. no, no, I can't. Like we were,
Talking about they all in the account money. That ain't a regular house.
that love, because she was always afraid that if something happens to her, she didn't want us to be lack of, so she always taught us how to take care of yourself, how to pay your own bills, how to do this. And it got, as I've gotten older, I realized it was pros and cons to it. The pro is that, hey, I've always, been that person that make the money and do all of that. But at the same time, there was no respect for men. Like, men were part of the process. There was not like you know, I need a man to do what you need to do. You're very like, oh, just a man. What's up? you know? So, and that's not a good thing, because there, you didn't feel like there was a partnership. It was always like, I got you, I got you, I got you.
Right.
So definite, there's some dynamics, trickle effects from whatever your parents suffered, or whatever the person that's raising you, they produce that in the way they raise you, if they're not educated and if they're not learning what to do. That's another thing. Because sometimes, too, like Brandon said, which I love, he says, hey, I learned this, but I gotten better. I learned, I was taught this, but I learned differently.
Right.
How about you, Latrish? How did you learn differently?
I learned differently, I guess, because I was around different people. I was in the military, and then I married, and then I was a stepmother. So I learned the
Mhm.
different disciplines and the different things that came from my ex at the time, because he's different. I
Mhm.
was the more strict parent, while he was the more, a little bit more lenient. So there's always learning with that, with different relationships that I established with, either
Mhm.
personally or business wise.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what do you, Brandon?
Oh, hey, I think, hey, I have no children. So my disciplinary, it comes from, I mean, mine extends from, me disciplining my niece, and then also the children that are around me at church. I have a lot of children around me, at church. So, and it's really never been a reason for me to do a whole lot of discipline them, but they know I don't play. So it's just those relationships.
I think it's that voice that comes in like such an authority.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rob is his
a lot of times,
physique. Yours is the voice.
right,
Go ahead, Latricia.
right. And that's something I've noticed with, the discipline with my daughter Sharon, that she's more prone to listen to a male, like her father, brother, her uncle, or her grandpa, before she listens to me. And that's something that me and Brenda have talked about. Like, yes, that authority figure, that voice that gets them, that makes them just jump. So that is something that I have learned dealing with her. But I have a lot of things where I I talk to her a lot too, like Brendan does, because she's very mature for her age, so she understands. So I do more talking than spanking. But when I have to, I do that. I've done it. And like Rob said, like it broke me. I went crying to my dad because it just broke my heart that I had to get her. And, I really hurt her. And she was like, oh, mommy. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I didn't want to cry in front of her. He's like, don't cry in front of her. Don't cry in front of her. So I left the room and I went and talked to my dad. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to ever have to do that again. But he's like, well, you might have to sometimes. But, it's just a matter of, just getting her to understand that, yeah, you can't do certain things and you have to listen. But it is that authority figure, a man being bigger, having that deep voice that gives them that command that just whips them into check.
Yeah,
Uh,
it is.
and could I ask you that question? How about the father? Now that your father is a grandfather, does he do differently with the grandchildren than he did with his children?
No, it's no different. None at all. He's still
Because
a
sometimes they say
disciplinary.
grandparents are
It's,
softer.
No,
what does it say? Spare the rod and spoil the child.
Yeah,
right.
he
It's
believes
the
in
same
that.
with her as well. There's no difference.
Yeah.
How about you, Val?
Well, I left out, so I don't know.
She
Okay,
kind
talked
so
of.
about
what we were saying, what Rob's story was talking about,
He's
how
frozen on my
he
end
was
for some
disciplined.
reason. I'm so sorry. Rob is frozen on my end. I don't know.
Well,
Do you see
prior to
that?
that,
Okay.
yeah, prior to that, he was talking about disciplinary and how people disciplined because of how they were disciplined or what. How was it in your household?
Okay. So my dad was not there. It was like my mother and my oldest sister. My oldest sister, she was more of the disciplinarian. My mother
Hmm.
she didn't really like kind of like discipline us that much. It
Hmm.
was kind of like
Hmm.
she was more of a disciplinarian with my oldest sister, and then when my little sister and I came along, she was way more lenient. So
Hmm.
yeah, so it was more of my oldest sister that was the disciplinarian. And but one thing I'll say is that my mom, kind of emulated
Hmm.
she also kind of emulated like how things were when she was younger, like
Hmm.
um how she was treated. Yeah,
I'm
how she
sorry.
was treated as a child. Okay. How she was treated as a child.
lost her. Valerie,
We
I
could
think we
hear
lost you.
her, but I think it's
Yeah, I
something
can't
on
hear
Rob.
him.
Rob, did you put her on mute?
No, um, I can hear her, but it's what happened. Is somehow the connection is acting crazy. I don't know why. So, but
Because
can everybody
Valerie, we
back?
heard her as soon as you came on. We couldn't hear her no more, but we were hearing
Okay,
her
but
fine until you came on, and
I
we
think
can't
Right.
hear her.
you trying to make me the reason why you're a mess. But anyway,
Val, Valerie, could you hear us now? Yes, she could hear us, but we can't
But
hear
she
her.
can't hear him.
Is your mute on? Could
I
you check your mute?
no, that mute is not on. I'm mute is no, her mute is not
All right.
on. I can hear her.
Okay.
I can hear
Okay.
her. Mhm.
Well, we all need to hear her though.
Okay, Val, can you say something?
No, she's
No,
frozen. Tell her
she's
she's
frozen.
frozen.
Okay, hold on, hold on. Let me hold on.
Oh, this podcast is too funny. We definitely have to edit it.
Yes. For those that are tuned in,
Please.
please forgive us. Technical difficulties. We're just.
So, is Val back? She's still not back.
Oh,
Oh,
there she
here
is.
she
Hey
is. Here
Val,
she
can
is.
you say something?
Hi, sorry.
Yeah.
I always
Yeah, see?
good. So yeah, like I was saying, like my mom. I'm sorry. So like I was saying, my mom, like she
That's
basically
okay.
implemented. Yeah, she basically implemented what, like, however her, I don't know the dynamics her and her mother had. She basically did the same things with us. And it was like, I don't know, like I talk to my older sister about it all the time. And it's like, I don't know why. If she saw things were a certain type of way with her and her mother, or her grandmother, because I feel like her grandmother and her, they like her grandmother had favoritism with her.
Mm.
It was like with her, but with my older aunt, she loved my older aunt. My mother told me one time that my she asked my nana, could she live there with her, and then she told her no, but then she turned right around and let my two older aunts live there. One was upstairs, one was downstairs, and she told my mother no. So and that really like hurt her. And I just feel like it kind of trickled down to like us in like the same ways that her mom, their dynamics and things like that. Like she knew those things were not right. But I feel like as she told us those stories, it was kind of sounded familiar. And I'm like, she's doing the same thing. She's,
Mm.
she's kind of doing the same thing. And I just feel like, I don't know, like our parents' generation, they didn't know how to like, sometimes like they didn't know how to like decipher, how to treat us and everything. Like, if you knew that method did not work with you and your mother or your grandmother, whoever raised you, so it's like, why would you do that with your children? Why wouldn't you, change it? Why wouldn't you change the dynamics? Because that's what I did. I noticed how things were different, like with my mom, and like how she raised us and things like that. And I was like, if I ever have any children, I'm not going to do the same things that my mother did. You know what I mean? I'm going to do things differently. And I did. My mother was like emotionally unavailable, everything.
Mm.
She just didn't talk. She kind of secluded herself. She would just like read in her room, and she just left kind of like
Well,
my little sister and I out to do our own thing.
well, one thing I would say, hurt people hurt other people. And
Yeah.
I heard a parent said, um, America, West Indian, of course, America has schooling for everything. But the one thing that they never had school is how to be a parent. And everybody had to do that on the job training,
Yes. Very true.
you
Very
know,
true.
because, we all did it according to what we thought was good,
Right.
and
And
every child is
it's not what you see.
dynamically is different.
Hmm.
Right.
But I feel like if you pay attention to your children, you'll learn. You'll learn how your children are. You'll know how to deal with that specific child. Because I specific like when my son was growing up, I would sit down and talk to him, because I remember one day I was coming in from work, and he was coming in from we were both coming in from work and school. I picked him up from school. And then I just noticed how, I'm just coming in, just unraveling, unwinding and things like that. And I just noticed we weren't talking. And then I said, something just came to me and told me, like, ask how his day was, you know?
Mm.
Then I literally dropped what I was doing, and I sat down. I sat down next to him on the bed, and I was like, hey, boo, how was your day today? What did you do? What did you learn? And then I saw how he opened up to me. Can you guys see me? You hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear
Okay.
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Rob is messing with the
Oh,
the
okay.
display.
I know what happened. Yeah,
Now
so
we're small.
yeah. So I just feel like ever since I just feel like ever since that day, I just made it a habit to always communicate to him, to always, have open dialogue to him, and always tell him, like, you can come to me at any time. If anything is bothering you, if you're thinking about anything, if you had a bad day, I would ask him constantly about his homework, and I would make sure, things was in his planner, everything, things that my mother never did with me, never, ever. She would just ask me basically
So
like, "You have homework," and that's it.
so one of the things that I'm listening to everyone, and every one of us have said it, myself included, is that it's not always about disciplinary, mostly about listening and talk communication.
Yes. Yes.
because each child is different.
See,
Rob with
what,
his daughter, by him talking to her, Brandon saying that, hey, I speak to my nieces and nephew. Latricia said, hey, it broke me, just like Rob. Hey, it broke me when I spanked my child. You're saying that I had to take time out. And the thing that we're want to do is, whether it's a male and woman communication, whether it's family communication, our children, the key thing is to the family dynamics is communication. No matter what kind of relationship it is, it seems
What
like
relationship
communication
is
is key.
key and comprehension.
Right.
Someone has to understand what's going on here. You could talk your head off, but if no one understands anything, you're not going to get anywhere. So,
right,
Right.
That's great.
right.
Good. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Wow. Wow, I just learned a lot about all you guys when it comes down to family. And regardless of how big or small the family is, the dynamics are seeming to be similar. That we all learn from each other from generation to generation, and depending on you know, I used to always say to people like we learn through osmosis. You know what I mean? We learn by what we see that's around us. So a lot of times I watched. I have a friend. His mother drank,
mm,
father drank,
mm,
the brother drank, he drank. Now his kids are drinkers, and
Mm,
it's and so us growing up down the hill, they're known. This I never say the family name, but the family is known as being drunks. Like yo, all of them drink, and we used to joke around so much, be like even the babies, you know what I mean? So it was just like a joke because the family, everybody was a alcoholic.
mm,
But that was the transition of watching what their mother did and their father did.
right.
And then it's like prime example, when I first started dating, I was a yeller.
mm.
My first relationship, me and her going back and forth, yelling. Her parents come from yelling, I come from yelling. We just some yelling young people,
Yelling
right?
together.
So when I got older, I was like, I can't do this. This is too much. And I watched another couple, and I had to change my ways because we wasn't building nothing. We were just yelling. But I remember my grandmother yelling at my grandfather.
Mm,
And you remember Miss Bethea? Miss Bethea was Val. You remember my grandmother?
yes.
My grandmother was a hot. Val knew my grandmother. My grandmother was a
Yes.
yeller and a whooper. That was just too much. That was too much for a child. And so I believe that those things transcend over time. But another part of families dynamics that I wanted to talk about was grow, you know, growing up in poverty. You know what I'm saying? We a lot of times in our communities, um, we grew up in what society said is a level of poverty, a level of income that's not coming through the household. Well, my grandmother raised us off of food stamps and welfare um, for a part of a long. And I watched various different families grow up living under the poverty level. And I want to talk about how finances affect the household and how have any of you guys felt that impact of a parent not being able to fulfill certain things like going to college, maybe not having the prom suit the next person had, or not being able to get the haircut when you want it. Like, you guys ever experienced that growing up in the household?
No.
No.
No, no, no. Oh, y'all some rich black people. Okay, well I did.
Hey,
And
hey, I thought we were rich the way we was treated because we were spoiled. We pretty much got whatever we wanted most of the time. So I thought we were rich. I thought we were like the Huxtables for the longest. You know, because that's the way we live. We always lived in nice places. We got things that we wanted for Christmas. Got to do the things we wanted to do. So we were very fortunate that we was able to live that lifestyle and have that upbringing.
So how did that, when you had to go out in the world and create those develop?
Oh, it was difficult for me, man. Because I was trying to live exactly the way I was trying to do everything and live the same way, and yeah. So I had to put in a little extra work to live the way I lived. So when I left home, I was hey, when I left home, man, I was when I left home at 18, I was trying to live the same way.
Latrice, how about you? You guys were a same household. What was it for you?
Well, for me, it was different because when I left home, I went into the military, so I had money, and my dad he taught us how to manage our money. So I was able to do that. So I didn't struggle when I left home. I was able to uphold that lifestyle for myself. Plus,
She learned
I
that.
had my brother and my dad that always had my back too. So they gave me the things that I were used to without asking. So it just came natural for me to have those things,
So,
because if I didn't give it to myself, they provided for me.
how about you, Val, with leaving home? How was it for you financially?
Oh,
You
I'm
must be
sorry.
on mute. We can't. Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Okay. I didn't even hear the
Yes.
question because I can't hear Rob that well. I cannot hear him. What was his question?
His overall was, hey, the struggle of financial process. How did it affect you? Like, did you have struggles growing up? Were you missing? Since Latricia and Brandon came from the same household, they said no, they did not. And
Yeah.
we're asking you, were there things that you wanted and as you were growing up and you didn't get?
Yes, my mother, even though she
And
worked
how
her
did that
butt off,
affect you?
right? It affected me because it was like every time, like Christmases were awesome. We had big huge Christmases, but it was like during the year, I was just like, I would go to her. I'm like, Mom, can I have this? Mom, can I have that? And she would just give me a look like, as if to say, get out of my room, like, don't bother. So it's like I kind of got used to like not asking her for anything. So I just started doing everything on my own. But and like she never taught any of us about financial stability, or how to save money or whatever. Like I remember one time I asked her about a check. And she was like, oh, they didn't teach you that in school. And I was just like, I felt stupid because I was like, oh, were they supposed to teach me that in school? And I was like, no, I don't remember them teaching me that in school. It was terrible. Like she couldn't even ask me. I mean, she couldn't even tell me about a check. Like she was just asking me like, did I learn that in school? And it's like, but we don't learn everything in school. You kind of
That's
gotta,
right.
you kind of gotta like teach us some things at home too. But yeah, I struggled a lot. Yes, because I had to teach myself a lot of things. I had to teach myself. Like I didn't learn it from home.
So, Rob, you always talk about that you were the big Rob that provided. How did you leave home and knowing that you didn't have much and yet you left home and the provider? Who taught you and
I'm gonna
how
give
did you
you
learn that?
um how I learned was at 16. My grandmother had, for the boys of the house, you had to be on your own at 16. So I
Wow.
started hustling on the corner of Seymour and West Ryan. I don't know if you remember that, Val. And so I used to hustle,
What's
and
hustling?
I started off, yeah, drugs. And the drug game taught me how to. So I went from an 8 ball of cocaine, which was like 3.5 grams, and I took it all the way up to 5,000 grams, which is like 5 kilos.
Look
And
at Valerie's face. Valerie said, what?
so 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 the fluctuation of cash. The first
I'm
time I
sorry.
got it, I remember it. I kind of messed the money up, and I owed my man Skeet a bunch
Hmm.
of money. And and then what I did was I paid him back, and then I went back at it, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna hold my money. And so I started holding my money, and I had an older guy, and I had my dad at that time. My dad used to say, I can't stop you, but you got to save this money. And I just started learning how to save it, and started how to. Then I opened up a couple businesses. I had like 3 barbershops, 3 restaurants, and a lot of that money came from that street money. And I started. Then somebody came into my life and said, "Yo, you should buy a piece of property." And I started trying to think about it. And then when I went to go buy cars, they was like, "Oh, we can't take cash." So one guy in Maryland said, "Oh, bring me a ton of money orders in $300 increments." So I brought him like $30,000 in money orders, and that was like all about business development. So I brought him $30,000 in
What?
300 increments in money orders.
Okay,
So it's
let me
about
say something. I don't need to cut you off, Rob, but I always say the greatest financial people are drug dealers.
Yeah.
right.
That's the
So it
best
taught me that.
businessmen ever.
Yeah.
So it taught me how to start moving cash. So then when I got into having businesses, like even now, like having a business, it's been so just easy for me. So a lot of my boys say to me, yo man, you always I never seen you down. I went from the barbershop restaurant game to the owning electrical company to doing children books. So all that for me was hustle. And it showed me how to manufacture a product and move it into a community and sell it to a demographics of people. So, and then what money does, money surrounds you around the most educated. So I would be around Doug Bell, who's the vice president of Kellogg's. I was around David Geese, who owned the second largest building in Manhattan. Bloomberg, I would eat dinner at the same restaurant he was eating at because I had the money. So if he spent 500, I had 500 to spend on a meal. Well, 500 to the average person is a lot of money to go down to Cipriani's and buy noodles and a bottle of water for $99. But I was in there eating with him. So the thing is, it started tapping into my ear about how to move dollars and how to be a businessman. So the thing is, I learned from that street hustle, going from the corner guy to the guy who you never see to the guy who and then I had guys around me that I would never say their name who was getting so much money that I would sit back and learn. I was like, okay, that's how you do that. And that's how you do that. And these guys would have to have so much money that they have to move it and do different things. So my learning was from the ghetto, strictly from the block. And then when I went off to college because I had a jump shot, I started learning, and I had to learn because for me to be on the basketball court, I had to get an education, and so I learned there. And then those guys wanted to be around me because I had a certain swag about myself. You know, you classy guy, you got a nice. The professor don't even have a cell phone. I got a cell phone. I'm in his classroom, and they want to just be around you because they at all. So now they teaching and you learning, and old head guys who want to be around me, they want to see me do right, and they would teach me. Like my dad never taught me about financial literacy. Now my dad taught me save your money, but my dad never taught me about financial literacy. My grandmother, my mother never taught me about. My brothers and sisters never taught me about financial literacy. I've learned that off of watching the cats I used to be with. If I'm in Florida, yo, how you do that? Yo, Sleeve, you do this, you need to pay off your credit, get your credit score. Yo, don't buy them fur coats, get your credit right. So, you got a fur coat with $800 shoes, but your credit all messed up. So I'm in Florida, Spanish boy say, yo, get your credit right. You can get one of these and you ain't got to worry about putting no money down. So I started that's how I learned. And Valerie will tell you, I hustled since I was 16 years old. She probably didn't know when I was sitting on the corner with Seymour. That's what I was doing. I was
Valerie
not
didn't know
just,
you were hustling that much money. Her eyes went like, what?
I didn't see her for like 15, 20 years.
Yes.
something like that. But my life had, but they always known I had restaurants and barbershops. Everybody in the city know me from restaurants and barbershops, and I always had one since 1995, either two or three at a time. Always had them, and that was my hustle. So that hustle taught me how to look at. And now that I'm older, I'm getting better and better and better. But yeah, I think if
At
somebody would
hustling.
have taught me at a younger age, huh?
Pretty
If
much.
somebody would have
I
taught
was
me
trying
when
to
I
be
was younger,
facetious.
yeah, like my daughter,
But
like my daughter is going to be,
Mhm,
my daughter was going to be good. Like my son, God bless his soul, he was amazing with his money because I taught him. Like, yo, your credit is like your right arm. If your credit ain't right, it's like you ain't got no arms. And and I just constantly learned from those street lessons was the ones that really elevated me. Even when I'm talking to people, my ability just to read people was because of what I learned in them streets. You
mhm,
can I live off vibrations. Sometimes if the vibration bad, I immediately get up and go away. Whereas other people will
mhm.
sit there. Me, if the vibration
Well,
is bad, so I'm listening.
one thing that you, one thing that I know that the average, middle American family, we were taught that, hey, go to school, get an education, and work for a good company. Like work for IBM, work for this, So I know that one of the things that, in the other perspective, if you didn't work for a good company, you didn't go to school, you didn't do that, you hustle, or you didn't go to school,
Right.
you didn't do nothing, you had children and at an early age and you have welfare. You know what I'm saying? So it's either to the dynamics of, hey, it's either you get a job and you go and work somewhere, because that was my parents' perspective. It's like, you get an education, you go to college, and everybody went to college in my family. Everybody, my stepfather was a college professor, so my mom met him and at school, you know what I'm saying? So everybody was educated in my family, but the goal was not to start your own. The goal was to work for a good company that was going to take you somewhere, right? And somebody else's stuff,
Exactly.
you
Right.
know? So
They
it's in
shuttle
my
us.
later, yeah, it's in my later understanding that I thought, hey, I can be my own boss. But it was never
Right.
taught to me in a way. And my way was,
Okay.
hey, get an education. You need an education. Like we were destined. Like my parents were like, we had no choice. When we finished high school, it wasn't like you were gonna do the military. You didn't have a choice. Your choice was
Mm-hmm.
going to college. Period. And when you finish college, you're going to get a job working for this company or that company. And celebration was, I got a job at this company. Yay! Like we didn't even get the yay when we got a bachelor's degree. It was just like that was just expected. Like that was a high school diploma to my parents. Like
Right.
they said it, but like to get a job afterwards, to become a nurse, to work for that company or do this company. When I told my mom that I was leaving nursing and I was going to do something like sell insurance, I was going to be a financial advisor. She was so offended because she told her friends that I was a nurse. And so now when they asked her what I was doing, she said, well, she just sells insurance. And then she got quiet, like, oh, how could she do that? Like, and this was an opportunity to show me how to work my own business and how to work money. She didn't take it at that. She just thought like, oh, I'm going to be poor because I have to hustle for the money. I'm not getting a paycheck on the regular.
Well, that's what the slave master has taught us. The slave
Exactly.
master has taught
That's the
us to
mentality she was.
educate ourselves and
Yeah.
circulate out and work for them. You know what I'm saying? So,
Mhm.
like, I'm an electrician, right? And when I first got into the electrical game, white America would they did everything in the world not to teach me. You can come work for me, but I'm not going to teach you how to um, run a raceway or put together a a junction box to run or put together a service. They wouldn't teach. They wouldn't give it to me. They would just put me in the labor area. But I was an apprentice as an electrician. And I went through 4 different jobs. Telling them, oh, yeah, I'm an electrician. Da, da, da. And then when I learned there, I go take it to the next one. And I would keep learning to now that I got the job that I'm with now. And I found out that there's no trade schools in the city of New York. Not official one. It's some ones that do like 3-week classes for. There's no, and it's designed this way because if young black boys ever get the gist that being a plumber, an electrician, and a carpenter is another level of success, that you don't need a bachelor's degree, you just need 9 months of a classroom or maybe some apprentice courses, that these guys can make 70, 80, 90, $100,000 a year. And it took me, now I'm 55, I'll be 55 in September 26th. I did a partnership with a guy named Tilia, and he has a master's degree.
Could you let Brandon in?
Yeah. Oh, Brandon.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Could you? Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, make a long story short, I'm sorry, Brandon.
It's all good.
You should have sent a message. But I watch the money that I'm making now, right? And sometimes I'm not gonna tell what I make because somebody child support might be calling me in a couple of days. Anyway, right? But the money I make, the money I make, right? I'd be like, I was a sucker. I should have never went to college. I should have never done none of that. I should have went to a trade school, went back to a trade school I should have got the electrical, plumbing, and HVAC skill set, and I'd have made $250,000 a year. Because the guys at my job average $100,000 a year. Everybody. Or HVAC, plumbers, electricians, all are doing between 80 to 100. And I talk to guys with BS degrees, and they be like, "See what?" I had to show a guy my pay stub, and he couldn't believe it. He said, "Man, I got a master's. I don't get that type of money because everybody has a degree, but there's not too many trade people. And black boys, they keep the best trade schools are in white communities. I had to go all the way up to Patterson, on the outside of Patterson, to get a trade. And now for me to go back to get the second level of trade, I got to go to Bergen County, which we're the largest city in New Jersey. And why there's no good trade schools? Because they don't want us here. They don't want us in the game. They the ones who write the books. They the ones who write everything. And that's what my parents didn't teach me. My parents said, "Oh, go get college and get a good education." I went to college. I was in that classroom looking at them books. I was like, "Man, why am I even here? I didn't even have the hunger for it."
But let me tell you, for me, it opened doors for me. Because I knew that there was time of promotions. Because I had the college degree, they gave it to me, whether I was qualified or not. Because it was a college degree.
Let me just say something I learned about Black America. When white America is ready to fire in their jobs, the first room they go is where all the brothers and sisters at. Y'all, we the first one and the last one. We the last to get hired and the first one to get fired. And I've seen this when I was in corporate America. As soon as they want to downsize, they find all the Afro Americans and they fire. They get rid of. That's who they go to. They did. And my thing is that I would never put my family or any family that I have in that situation where I don't know if I'm going to be working the next day. because you can work at Verizon, they lay off. You can work on Wall Street, they lay off. Goldman Sachs, they lay off. And guess who they lay off? People who look like us. So until we build our own situations and build our own capital, and I would never date a woman who don't think that we're not going to be entrepreneurs and build our own capital and build our own for our family and our generational wealth. That why would I sit there and do that and kill myself? And that's sitting there. You work for a job for 30 years and they only give you 45% of your income. So you got to work another 7 just to get to 62. 62.
And so that's why, as a parent,
right, we got to teach our kids that we got to be self-sufficient, because the life expectancy for Black America is 67. Am I right, Brandon?
Yeah.
So why would I sit up there and give them? I gave them. Why would you give no life to them when they're gonna throw it away anyway? And every time you turn around, they trying to cut Social Security. I can't do it.
So now what we're saying is that as parents, you do differently. You show them differently, because keeping the family dynamics going is not only being there for them for emotional, physical, but financial is one of the things that we keep our children. We're good at providing. We're good at putting food on the table and clothes on the back, but we need to do the emotional, the physical, because I would talk about in the family dynamics is our physical. We to celebrate food all the time. Let's go eat.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? When I go exercise, I don't see, everybody, white folks bring all their family as members of the Y or gym, but we don't even go. And then when we go, or I'm walking in the park, they even have the baby on a stroller pushing, but we're gonna go eat. You know what I'm saying? We don't teach good health. We don't teach, even in our cooking and all that and what we do, because of the hustle and bustle of life. We pick up McDonald's quicker than we sit at home when our parents did give us hot meals. So that's another subject that I would like us to dominate and talk.
Don't you think that's a cultural thing on how we eat? On how
I'm not saying that it's not a cultural thing, but just like the money, it's a cultural thing also. But just like the money, we're now changing the dynamics. We're teaching our kids differently. You're like you just said, Rob, I'm teaching my kid to do, your child was different. Your child will be different because of what you learned. But another thing is this, in financial, as a financial advisor, I've taught people how to make money work for them. And not only with that, but also to even teach them how to make life insurance work for them. Because the average person, the average African American don't have life insurance. Do you understand that if you want to leave the car, the this, the that for the kid, but guess what? If you have a certain amount of equity on that, they have to pay inheritance taxes. But if you have a life insurance, whether it's a 10,000, whether it's $1 or $1 trillion, you pay no taxes on that money. And that's how the white get wealthy, because when they die, they leave life insurance. And life insurance, there's no taxes on life insurance. So what they do is buy life insurance, because if you leave that property, if it's over a certain amount, they have to pay the taxes on the property plus inheritance taxes. So if you leave things for them, they don't value that you have for the things. My parents, they left a house. Guess what? My brother don't even care about the house like that. But they love the house. They work hard for the house. Unlike for life insurance, you leave a life insurance for a child. Don't leave your retirement. Don't leave your this. Don't leave your that. You leave that life insurance and they get richer and richer because they put their money in the life insurance, because life insurance tax free. Left $100,000, that child is going to get $1,000. You left $1 million, that child. But if you leave an RA, a Roth, an annuity, whatever the case may be, you have to pay a growth tax. You have to pay the taxes on that you're in the bracket, and inheritance taxes. So by the time you get $100,000 on an annuity that your mama left you, it's about 40 grand. So you cut off 60% of it. So I teach the dynamics of how to make yourself and I've heard parents, people will say, well, I'm not gonna buy no life insurance, get no children, die off of me. But we don't care about our next generation. We only care
Yeah.
for today. We don't want to. I would love my parents to leave me in a better place. But no, parents die and you have to pass the hat to collect money to even bury them. They didn't even leave you the dignity to have money to even take care of your own body. Now I have to be the
I
one
don't, I
to
don't, I
have
don't,
that
I don't
burden.
think is, I don't think is, I don't think is about dignity. I think it's about miseducation. So the
Mm.
miseducation
No, no, I've been
of
to
a
the
people,
I've been to some people's houses and I said,
but
listen, this is what you do just to better
but
for
you
your
can't,
children. I said, I'm not even trying
but
to
you can't
sell you
apply that.
something.
But
And then
that's
they say, I don't
miseducation.
want to give no money.
But
I don't want to leave no money for no
can I say
kid
something?
to
But
go ahead.
that's miseducation from our people. Our people, see, this is how I look at what you're saying. Our people are miseducated. You gotta remember, um, 1816 was one of the first HBCUs ever started to teach Black America. Now that was not. I don't even think that was 100 years ago. That was 120 years ago, maybe. Not even that. And then
And
you
I
talk
hear
about the
you.
Jim
And
Crow
I
law.
hear you.
Now let me finish though. Let me
But
finish though.
go ahead.
Then the Jim Crow laws was implemented, right? So we are 1965. The Jim Crow laws ended. We was miseducated. We wasn't getting a fair education. We wasn't getting fair nothing. This is about 56 years ago. This new generation of children are developing a whole different mindset because technology is giving them the ability to open up their minds. Because like my
Mhm.
son, my daughters, and them, like my daughter bought a house at 29. Well, our parents didn't talk to them about buying a house at 29. You hear some of these young people now, oh, I'm about to buy me a house.
Mhm.
We didn't think that way. How many young friends you know, Brandon, that have houses now? That
Oh
are
yeah.
young people that buy houses. So the
Oh yeah.
miseducation of the black man was in place. So we have to also, as a people, understand that we got to let the seed grow. And if the seed, see, the seed is being planted because literacy is running rapid in America because you can Google everything. You don't have to wait no more till white America says, "Here you go, I'm gonna give it to you." Now
Mhm.
it's if you want to find something out from fixing your car to changing the tire, all you got to do is Google it. Well, that wasn't there for our fathers and mothers. The education was hidden. The books was hidden. Everything was taken away. They didn't open our eyes up to life insurance. They didn't open up our eyes to housing, buying houses. They didn't open. White America hid so much from Black America, right? And then
And
when
I
you went
hear
into the
you.
room, but so we can't bash them. You have to allow that seed to grow, and you can see it in our children. You can see it in our children. You can see it in our children, grandchildren. Even the elegance of our grandchildren, the way they talk, is different than the way we talk. The way they articulate their
And
words.
I hear
I
you,
listen
but I'm
to
saying that some of them with the education and understanding, and I know I educated them and they have known something, and they still make the choice to say, hey, I don't care about that process.
Mhm.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking
you ever heard the
because
saying?
the dynamic that you said, education, white America is telling us to be educated, but then you're saying, hey, there are education out there, they're not educated. So it's one or the other. It's either they themselves make that process of wanting to be
Can I say
educated.
something?
Go ahead.
Let me just say this to you.
Hmm.
The Everybody has their own little pot, and within your own little pot, you experience this. My experience has been that there are a massive group of young people who are opening up their mind and they're spreading their ideas and their ideologies different. And so what I'm saying to you is that there has been a miseducation from our people. Say, prime example, our people was taught to go to college, get a degree, and work for somebody. But has it benefited you? Has it put you in a situation of better living? Have it taken you out of financial struggle? No, it hasn't. It just always just put a check that puts you week by week, month by month. So what I'm saying to you is that miseducation is doing a turnaround. Black America, that's growing and they're developing. What we should do as a pupil of life is that we got to continue to educate and inspire until we die, because everybody don't think that way. Everybody don't think that way. Like white America said, black men are criminals. Well, in the state of New Jersey, there's 500,000 people that float through the prison system, right? But there's 8.2 million people that live in New Jersey. So there's only less than 1% of the population. But they put their camera on top of that black boy and make it seem like he's the worst person in the world. So I think as us as a people, we gotta keep pushing them and not saying, "Oh, I did this," and they don't want to get that every day. Because God says in the Bible, some will go to hell and some will go to heaven. Some will get it,
And I
some
hear
won't.
you, but we can't make it. I hear you, but we can't. When do we we take responsibility for our own family dynamics? We can't say white America is trying to bring us down. White America is doing this. I'm not saying that there's not a percentage of it that's happening, but let me tell you, I'm in that community when we buried Miss Johnson and we didn't have money for Miss Johnson to get buried. Still in that community when we buried Mr. Thomas and we didn't have money to bury Mr. Thomas. I'm saying to you is this is reality of let's just get enough money to bury Miss Thomas if Mr. Thomas passed away. That's what I'm saying to you. It's like that is not education of its weird wide. That's just plain old. Let's stop passing the hat in the black community. Let's stop doing the dinner because of the fact that our brothers and sisters are
What I'm
dying.
saying to
We
you
don't
is that
have the process of education.
what I'm saying to
So
you is
you know, I
that
mean, of life insurance.
what I'm saying, you have a group of people and you have a demographics of people who are in communities that are struggling who and can't even afford life insurance, who take on these attitudes. So you're gonna have that demographics. But but blacks are bigger than just inner city struggles. And there's a group of black
I
people who are
agree.
prominent black people, like myself, like Brandon, and like his sister, who are taxpayers and pay into their insurance plan. So what I'm saying to you is that we have to not say all black people. We have to say there are a group of black people that's in the demographics that are not doing it, and that's a lack of miseducation. And that's why I said some will go to heaven and some will go to hell. So when we put out that, oh, our people are not doing it, that's not true. Because I can
Well,
take
that's
you
the
to
same thing. We can't say all the folks are being oppressed by white America either. We can't say that. At the
you
same
don't think
token, I
you
hear you
don't think
saying,
you
and I
don't think
do hear
you
you.
don't think the laws in America oppression. Sometimes you can't even feel oppression. It's just oppressing you without any pain. Have you ever seen oppression without pain? Oppression is not always
Yeah,
something that you feel.
yeah, but I'm what I'm saying to you is like you saying, and at the same token, you're saying to me that hey, everyone has an opportunity and to change their dynamics of
Right.
their
Yeah,
lives. And
exactly.
so what I'm saying to you, I if I have that opportunity and it's given to me, I don't take it. And this one didn't, whatever the case may be, it's not always the white America that allows me not to take those opportunities. Like I said to you, I've taught people how to pay it that is on welfare. I said, listen, I'm gonna tell you how I tell them. I said, listen, you can't afford not to have life insurance, and this is what you're going to do when you get your tax return. You're going to get this and this because you got this and this child, and you're going to pay it per year. Then you don't have to worry about it because that's the money that the government going to give you that you're going to file for your kids. So I've made avenues. I've even told folks that I would pay for them for life insurance because like you couldn't even afford not to have it because you got 6 kids And she said no.
The
I'm not gonna have my.
miseducation
That's what I'm saying. So the miseducation, I've sat there
is
and taught
the
you
lack of
why.
understanding. The lack to
So it's
understand
not
that this is
education now, it's a lack of understanding, not a miseducation. Because I've done the education
I mean, and
as prevalent
you
as
can
I
play with the
can.
words, but you can play with the
No,
words.
it's
But
not words
let
because
me ask you
I've
a question though.
educated her.
Let me ask you a question though.
I've
If you
educated
put a
her.
kid, let me ask you a question, and I've
Hmm.
seen this. They have public school and they have charter school in inner
Hmm.
cities, right? So they have a charter school called North Star, and they have a public school called Alexandria, right? Well, they turned that into a charter school too. All right,
Hmm.
right.
Hmm.
They put the same black kid from the same projects into North Star, right? And he came out with a prominent education. And that same child who lived on the same block, the same level of mother, they put him over at Alexandria, right?
Hmm.
He didn't get the right books. The teachers wasn't a part of the process, and none of that, right?
Mm.
So when I say white America, I don't mean just a white man. I'm talking about their laws and their
Yes, yes,
regulations.
yes. I
That's what I'm
understand
talking
what you're
about.
saying.
That affect our children on a day-to-day basis. And if anybody tell you
Hmm.
that white America don't got their foot on black people's neck from an institutional standpoint, then they crazy. So if a person here is being miseducated, lack of books, lack of facilities, lack of all this stuff, right?
Yes.
Then he's not going to grow up thinking what you think is important.
Hmm.
And lack of a mother and a father teaching them what you call life skills. They're not going to feel um, like oh, I need this. Because it's something that they didn't grow up with. So the thing is, they sit back and be like, I don't need that. I need to get this beer, make me feel better.
Hmm. True.
That's the miseducation. But there's a lot
Exactly.
of blacks who, it's just, one thing I learned in life, everybody not going to make it in the kingdom of heaven. So you can, I used to be trying to say, I used to try to change everybody. You know what I try to change? Those who want it.
Rob. Rob. That's the only
Well,
person you could change, Rob. Is Rob.
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Stop it. She said, hey, Brandon, what's this, a
Yes.
fight tonight? We having a fight tonight? But listen, we're gonna end it because we got into almost an hour and a half, and I enjoyed this conversation. But we're
Yes.
gonna
Yes.
tune in next week, and we're gonna talk about relationships. And Brandon, what was the fourth episode gonna be about?
Well, we were going to talk about relationships after divorce.
Okay,
Ooh.
we're gonna talk about relationships after divorce, and
Rob should be the topic, huh?
you're a hot mess. She got her hair down, Brandon. You need to talk to her after this. But Miss Flanders, I enjoyed you. You got your brother eyes. You got your brother eyes, and this is a great discussion. And guys, if you listening out there and you enjoyed the show, tune in. You can ask all the questions that you want, and we see you next Tuesday at 7:30. Good night, guys. I enjoyed y'all.
Good night.
And Brandon, you didn't say anything this week. You just was all quiet.
Hey, I was taking it in.
Yeah, somebody had your attention. That's what it was.
No. It's just been a busy week, man. It's a lot on my mind.
Are we
Okay.
off the air? We're
No,
not
we're
off
going off
air.
now. We're going off now.